Hello everyone and welcome. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Firebug and today I'll be talking about top 5 things I would like to change in Smite 2. I also just want to say thank you for the recent support. I've gained a lot more subscribers and a lot more views, so thank you. And if you want to help me reach at least 100 subs at the end of the year, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll be posting more videos as soon as I can. Alright, that being said, let's just get straight to the point. So, in the first thing on my list, I put down mages and solo lane. So, my thoughts are, I think it is kind of dumb that you can play a full power mage and the very beginning just insta clear wave, insta clear, some of the camps and all that. Because for a warrior, right, they usually build somewhat defense, right? Warrior's Axe gives you defense. The only thing that's going for Warriors is Bluestone, but even then it just feels like it's not enough to like really impact the clearing wave potential. So, and why is clearing wave such an important thing? Because if a mage can clear wave in, let's say, 2 abilities or even 1, and then I'm struggling with 3 abilities, some Wukong. Speaking about some Wukong, if you haven't checked my some Wukong video, check that out, and I'll put the card, YouTube card on the top right, so check that out. But back to what I was saying, I feel like it's a huge disadvantage, especially in early game, and the mages can just clear wave with 1 ability and they can just snowball and take your bad camps, take all your camps. So once you're done with clearing wave and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go clear out my blue or my side camps, they're gone. So it is a little frustrating, and I believe that they should just buff a little bit of the bluestone, or maybe give like more items that can help just clear wave, or big AoE, more AoE damage type, right? So for example, Mystical Mail, right, it does have that AoE tick damage, and I feel like that could be utilized a little bit more as just to help clear wave. So try and make items like that. But the reason why you don't see a lot of people use Mystical Mail, because the stats is not the greatest. It's like, why go for this when I could go for that? You know what I mean? So maybe buff some of the stuff like that in the areas, and maybe warriors could have a chance to fight against a stupid mage that are in the lane. It is also ironic that warriors were made to counter mages and hunters. They're meant to be aggressive, they're meant to be up in the front line with the tank and do damage, but it seems like that's not the reality, and the high-res employees or devs are just so afraid to buff defense, but it's not a defense issue. It's just clear wave issue. Not enough damage. So maybe they can look into it a little bit more. Alright, my second thing that I want to change in Smite 2 is stealing camps in the very beginning. So when I was trying to get a recording of my Susano, and again, I can put that on my top right YouTube card. There we go. I keep forgetting what it's called. But anyways, click on that and it bring me my Susano. But as I was trying to get a good Susano gameplay and jungle, I feel like with some of my matches, I believe that most of the time when I'm over there helping my warrior get his blue camp, and I go for the red and then go for that middle camp and then finally go back to my yellow's gone. So in Smite 1, they had a system that you cannot steal, like in the very beginning, you cannot steal camps, because they had a system that if you tried, you're slowed, you do less damage, and you know, it's basically a countermeasure, right? And they added this because they realized in Smite 1 that a lot of pro players were stealing just each other's cameras, and they didn't want that in the very beginning. It can really just fuck people over. So they added that kind of system, and it only is affected in the very beginning. And then after that, the system turns off, and like, I think it turns off at 1 or 2 minutes in the match, and then it will go away. So, and it is so tilting to play as a assassin or a jungler, aka, and your speed camp's gone because you didn't decide to stick around at your speed, and you wanted to do a blue buff start with your warrior. And it is kind of dumb that it's not in the game yet, but who knows? Maybe they could take notes from Smite 1 and bring it into Smite 2, and that would be great. Alright, for my third one, I put down is some characters feel like they do need a rework or more of a balance. So I'm going back as a warrior's perspective again. I'm gonna name Bologna. I'm not saying Bologna's bad. Yes, you can get kills with her. You can probably perform decent, but it's not. It's one of those scenarios. It's like, why pick her when I can play Mordred and just dominate in solo lane, right? And I feel like with most characters in this game, it's just gonna get stronger and stronger. So the problem with Smite 1, and again, I use Smite 1 as a reference a lot. Problem with Smite 1 was they catered to certain gods and just never touched the older gods ever again. Like, never reworked them, never looked at them ever. So, and I'm not saying like ever they do look at them, but it takes so long to like even have a difference. Bologna used to be, terrifying in Smite 1, but now in Smite 2, the only thing that's going for her is probably her shield bash and maybe the whip, but that's really it. Even that's like with or without the aspect. For another example, I feel like Amaterasu doesn't perform as well, right? Like, certain gods should have basically looked back and reviewed. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't mind the new gods. So after Giannis and Hui, they should probably just stop bringing new gods for a little bit and just kind of focus on game balance. And that's just my opinion, because I do believe certain gods exceed and other gods kind of lagging behind. And it's kind of ironic because this game is built ground up, ground up. So everything should be more balanced, but it really isn't. And I feel like it's going back to that slope of we're repeating history at that time. Because Smite 1 had a problem with character balances, and I feel like they're just focusing on new characters, but it's just nobody's gaining the real benefits for rebalancing or reworking some of the characters. Another one that I've heard in the Titan Talk was Balan's flag, and they're like, yeah, we'll look into it, but I was like, they should be looking at it now. Like, all characters should have at least a chance to perform at least decent or well enough, right? And I'm not saying all gods should be S tier and all that, like, that's just that reality. But anyone that is below like D to F tier, they should really look into it. So that's my thoughts and my opinions, but let me know what other characters you think are underperforming in the comments down below. All right, and then for my number four, I wanted to put down 5k pot of defense. So let me just explain, right? And very late of the game, everybody's gonna have 3K bots, right? And it's gonna be power and yeah, basically power. So you got strength and the intelligence one. But the problem is, and they can stack, right? The problem is later in the match, it's like, what's the point of having defense if they're just gonna have those big, you know, huge power spikes, right? So I feel like defense is kind of lackluster at the very end of the match, and I believe that they should add at least a 5K defense. And I understand they don't want to be too. They don't want to add tank meta. I think that's like the biggest fear. You don't want to add tank meta. But I feel like there should always be a way to countermeasure anything in the match, right? Everything should have at least a counter, and that's what makes a good balance in the game, in my opinion. So my suggestion is adding a defense pod, but it's not what you think. So let's say, if I remember at the top of my head and I put the right numbers on the screen, so the strength 500k pot will give you, I want to say I think it's what, 1,000 or 3,000 strength. So going for that, let's say 3,000, right? Let's say the 3k pot gives you 3,000. And I know I could be completely wrong right now, but this is going along with it. And the 3k pot gives you 3,000, but the defense only gives you 2,000. So it's like you can't just rely on the 3k defense. And I know it's like 1,000 down, but it will not bring people to just build a bunch of the defense ones, and the power ones will slowly creep in. So there is like somewhat of a counterplay, because the way that they have it implemented is like you're just gonna have a huge power spike at the very end, and it's kind of like, what's the point of having defense at that point, right? You might as well sell all your items and go more power and then get the 3k pots as well. And that's just, again, my opinion. But what you guys think? I'm gonna keep asking that every time. What do you guys think about the 3k pots defense? Because in Smite 1 they had it in Smite 1. They also had the 500 gold pot, and you can only unlock it on, I think, level 15 if I remember correctly, or level 10, and that would just give you a small power boost, right? And that can go back to the warriors, right? Let's say like, oh, the mages are outclaring me in the very beginning, and then let's say like I hit level 10, you could get that $500 little power boost, right? And that will help you to like give you back on track. Because I think the problem with Smite, or Smite 2 in general, is just the snowball. The snowball effect is huge. So my very last one is gonna be the VGS mini game. So if you don't remember, and maybe you never heard of it, Smite 1 had a VGS system, and well, Smite 2 has one too, but Smite 1 had a mini game that when you're waiting in queue for a long time, you can play this VGS mini game, and it will help you learn how to VGS. And I believe in Smite 2 they should bring that back, and I feel like it would be a great addition, especially for those long queues, right? And nobody wants to sit there like, oh, look at my characters, look at my skins, waiting like 3 minutes to get in a match. You was like, you might as well use the 3 minutes to have, like, say, new ways to learn the game. And adding the VGS mini game back to Smite 2 would be big. And I don't think a lot of people are really like talking about it. So I believe it'd be a great addition. And on top of it, Smite 2 and the devs were really focusing on new player experience. And I'm like thinking to myself, I was like, you know, that would be a great addition. I don't know why they were not thinking about it or even planning on doing it. Because I'm going to be honest, I can only do the VGS on the controller because I played Smite 1 for 10 years on controller, and I'm on PC now, but I'm still using controller settings. So, and the only thing I can't really have a good grasp is how to VGS properly on PC. I mean, I could learn. I can watch a YouTube video and some guy would just teach me how to do it. Right, but I think the game should have ways to implement, like, ways to learn the game. And I know they're like, well, I think it's a better idea if, you know, someone else gives you outsourced material to learn the game. But I disagree. I feel like there should be some ways to learn how to play the game, how to VGS, how to do callouts, what to do, where to go, all that. And I believe that should be one of the main focus. All right, and that concludes my top 5 things I want to change in Smite 2. And let me know down in the comments below, what would you want to see changed in Smite 2, and do you agree with my list? Anyways, if there is any other characters you want me to play in the background as I start yapping, let me know in the comments as well. And have a good rest of your day, and if you like the video, leave a like and subscribe. I'll be posting every other day. So thank you so much for watching, and have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.